What if I told you the President of the United States just admitted on national television that he pardoned someone and didn't even know who that person was? No exaggeration, no taken out of context clip. He literally said the words, "I don't know who he is." And the person he's talking about isn't some low-level staffer or anonymous defendant. It's one of the biggest names in the crypto world. This is the founder of Binance, the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange, who pleaded guilty to violating US anti-money laundering laws. So, how on earth does the president not know who he is? How does he justify signing a pardon for someone whose company just happened to pump billions of dollars into his own family's business? And even more importantly, how are we all just supposed to shrug and move on like that's normal? Stay tuned, because once you hear this entire chain of events, I promise you, your jaw will be on the floor.
He pled guilty in 2023 to violating anti-money laundering laws.
Right.
The government at the time said that CZ had caused significant harm to U.S. national security, essentially by allowing terrorist groups like Hamas to move millions of dollars around. Why did you pardon him?
Okay, are you ready? I don't know who he is. I know he got a 4-month sentence or something like that, and I heard it was a Biden witch hunt.
In 2025, his crypto exchange Binance helped facilitate a $2 billion purchase of WorldLibertyFinancial's stablecoin. And then you pardoned CZ. How do you address the appearance of pay for play?
Well, here's the thing. I know nothing about it because I'm too busy doing the other.
But you
I can
got
only
a
tell
pardon.
you that.
But you got a
No,
pardon.
I can only tell you this. My sons are into it. I'm glad they are because it's probably a great industry, crypto. I think it's good. You know, they're running a business. They're not in government.
And there it is. Donald Trump, on camera, saying he pardoned someone without even knowing who they are. Not that he forgot their name. Not that he was hazy on the details. He quite literally said, "I don't know who he is, and I know nothing about it," about someone he personally pardoned. Think about that for a second. Imagine a judge or a governor saying, "I have no idea who this person is, but sure, let's let them out of prison." And now realize that this isn't just anyone. This is Changpeng Zhao, also known as CZ, one of the most powerful figures in the global crypto economy. The founder of Binance. The man who pleaded guilty to federal criminal charges. The same man whose company was accused by the US government of allowing sanctioned terrorist groups to move millions of dollars through its exchange. And somehow, that man gets a pardon, and the President of the United States claims he's never heard of him. But wait. That's not even the craziest part. Because when you look closer at the timing, when you follow the money, and when you trace the connections between Binance, Trump's own family businesses, and a $2 billion crypto transaction, the whole thing starts to look less like ignorance and more like pay for play. Here's what we know. In 2025, Binance helped facilitate a $2 billion purchase of WorldLibertyFinancial stablecoin, a coin that's directly linked to a company owned by the Trump family. And not long after that, Trump pardoned CZ. If you're connecting the dots here, you're not alone. Even the interviewer in that moment pointed out how bad it looks. Trump's answer. Essentially, "I don't know him, but my sons are into crypto." That's not a defense. That's a confession of either corruption or total negligence. So let's just call this what it is. Either Trump sold a pardon to a billionaire whose company benefited his own family's financial interests, or he's signing pardons without reading or understanding who they are for. Either way, that's disqualifying. But what makes this moment even more surreal is the hypocrisy surrounding it. Remember how Republicans spent months losing their minds over Joe Biden's alleged use of an auto pen. Remember how they claimed that if Biden wasn't personally present to sign every single pardon with his own hand, it was a constitutional crisis. They called it the biggest corruption scandal in American history. And yet now, when Trump admits that he pardoned someone he doesn't even know, suddenly it's crickets.
And I think that the DOJ needs to take this and run. John, we've handed this to Pam Bondi on a silver platter.
Yep,
We've done all the heavy lifting. We've done the depositions. We've combed through the emails. I mean, this is the hard, tedious work of an investigation. Now it's up to her to bring these people in. If there's anything in the report that's inaccurate, if there's anything in the deposition that we reported that are mischaracterized, now here's your opportunity.
But I think it's fair game to study all of this. After all, the auto pen was used. There's no question that, sadly, President Biden was in mental decline at that time. And so did he know what he was doing, particularly as relates to the pardons? And did other folks take advantage of that? Is there a real record to prove that certain folks were pardoned? Whether a pardon can be overturned, I think, is a big uphill climb. But it's certainly fair game to question all of this to make sure that the president at that time knew what he was doing and that no one was taking advantage of him.
And the pardon power, it's an extraordinary power, Manu. There are guidelines, both in the White House rules and I think in statute, although you might have to check me on that, about how the pardon power is used and how the auto pen is used. There's no doubt the president can pardon pretty much whomever he chooses. But there's a real question as what does it mean for the president to direct it? If you have a situation, this is unprecedented in our history, where you have real questions as to whether the president actually approved of the pardons that were signed off in his name. That's a major constitutional issue. And this may get sorted out in court.
And you'll be reporting on this all day. But the Oversight Chairman James Comer released a blockbuster report now on the Biden auto pen presidency. And this report includes 47 hours worth of transcripts and testimony revealing that every executive action signed by the auto pen without written authorization from President Biden should be voided. This is an unprecedented situation in American politics and government. The actions of President Biden simply were not all his own actions. And there are major implications to that, including all the pardons that he signed.
Every executive action signed by the auto pen without written authorization should be voided, including all of the pardons that he signed. That was Mike Johnson, remember him? He called it a constitutional crisis. They said the entire Biden administration was illegitimate because a mechanical pen might have been used. They claimed it was proof that Biden wasn't mentally fit to lead. They even talked about voiding every action he'd taken as president. And yet, here we are. Donald Trump sits in front of cameras and says, I don't know who he is, about someone he personally pardoned, and the same people have nothing to say. Let that sink in. No outrage. No congressional investigations. Number 47-hour hearings. No wall-to-wall Fox News coverage. Just silence. The same party that said every executive action signed by the auto pen should be voided now shrugs when Trump says he signs pardons for people he doesn't even recognize. The same people who claimed Biden's use of an auto pen was proof of mental decline are now fine with a president who casually admits he doesn't read or know the names on the pardons he's granting. When Joe Biden potentially used an auto pen to execute pardons that had already been vetted by the Office of the Pardon Attorney, that was a constitutional meltdown, they said. But when Donald Trump pardons a convicted money launderer, whose company just happened to funnel $2 billion into his own family's business, that's just another Tuesday. According to the Department of Justice, the pardon process is supposed to involve a rigorous review. The Office of the Pardon Attorney reviews the case, checks the applicant's conduct after conviction, considers public interest, and then makes a formal recommendation. That's how it's designed to work. But here, Trump essentially admitted that he skipped all of that. He didn't read the briefs. He didn't hear the arguments. He just signed it. A convicted financier tied to transactions involving terrorist groups gets his record wiped clean, and the President of the United States says he doesn't even know him. And let's not forget, this isn't even his first controversial pardon. This is the same man who pardoned Steve Bannon after Bannon defrauded Trump's own supporters in a fake border wall fundraiser. He pardoned Roger Stone and Paul Manafort, both convicted of crimes tied directly to his campaign. He pardoned Charles Kushner, his son-in-law's father, who then conveniently became his ambassador to France. He pardoned George Santos, who was found guilty of fraud and identity theft. He pardoned more than 1,600 people involved in the January 6th insurrection. The pattern is unmistakable. The Trump pardon list reads like a who's who of cronies, loyalists, and financial backers. But the CZ pardon, that one stands out, because it's not even cloaked in pretense. He's not even pretending it's about justice. He's literally saying, I don't know who he is. And here's the thing, if that's true, it's bad enough. It means the President of the United States is signing off on pardons without vetting or understanding them. But if it's false, if he actually did know exactly who CZ was and just said that to dodge questions, then it's even worse. Because that means it wasn't just lazy, it was corrupt. Either way, the outcome is the same, the power of pardon being used for personal or political gain, rather than justice. Republicans used to claim they cared about corruption. They used to say the rule of law mattered. They used to brand themselves as the party of integrity. Now they are silent while their own leader pardons a billionaire who financially benefited his family and admits ignorance about it on camera. It's almost like the outrage only matters when it's politically convenient. Let's pause for a second and think about what this means for the country, for crypto, and for democracy. The pardon power is one of the most extraordinary powers the Constitution gives a president. It's supposed to be used carefully, to correct injustices, to offer redemption, to show mercy. It's not supposed to be a reward for loyalty, or a payment for business transactions. Yet in Trump's hands, it's become transactional. A tool for rewarding allies, forgiving cronies, and protecting anyone who can return the favor financially or politically. So let me ask you this. How do you feel knowing that the president can use the pardon power this way? How do you feel knowing that someone convicted of enabling money laundering, someone whose platform was used by terrorist organizations, can get an instant clean slate simply because their company did a multi-billion-dollar deal with the president's own business? Is that what equal justice looks like? Now, Trump's defenders have already started rolling out the talking points. The president has absolute pardon power under the Constitution, they say. He can pardon whoever he wants. And technically, yes, that's true. But having the power to do something doesn't make it right. A president could, in theory, pardon every criminal in the country. That doesn't make it moral, and it doesn't make it free from scrutiny. Others argue, well, Biden pardoned his own son. Sure. And Democrats were willing to say that it looked bad. There were members of Biden's own party who publicly criticized it. But you know what Biden didn't do? He didn't say, I don't know who my son is. The Zhao pardon encapsulates everything about Trump's approach to power. The rules don't matter. The process doesn't matter. The ethics don't matter. The only thing that matters is loyalty and money. You've got a convicted money launderer, whose company funneled $2 billion into Trump's family business, being pardoned by Trump himself, and Trump's defense is that he's too busy and doesn't know who the guy is. It's absurd. It's insulting to everyone who believes in law and accountability. And the most staggering part. The silence. The total, deafening silence from the same Republicans who lost their minds over Biden's auto pen. The same ones who said every action signed by the auto pen should be voided. Where are they now? Where's the outrage? Where's the investigation? Where's the moral consistency? Let's not forget, CZ's crimes weren't victimless. The Department of Justice accused Binance of allowing millions of dollars linked to sanctioned countries and terrorist networks to move freely through its system. The violations directly undermined U.S. sanctions designed to protect national security. The plea deal alone included billions in penalties. And yet, after all of that, the president who campaigned on law and order swoops in and erases it all. You can say whatever you want about politics, but this one thing is clear. If the standard changes depending on which part is in power, then the standard doesn't exist. If you think Biden's auto pen was the end of democracy, but you shrug when Trump pardons someone he says he doesn't know, you're not defending principles, you're defending power. And so, what happens next? That's the million-dollar question, or, I guess, the $2 billion one. Does the Department of Justice open an inquiry into how this pardon was processed? Does Congress investigate the link between Binance's $2 billion transaction and WorldLibertyFinancial? Does anyone in the GOP even acknowledge the ethical disaster staring them in the face? Or does this just get buried under the next news cycle? Because think about the precedent this sets. What message does this send to corporate executives, to the financial sector, to the crypto industry? That you can break the law, plead guilty, pay a fine, and then get a get-out-of-jail-free card as long as you do business with the right people. That's not justice. That's a shakedown. That's an open invitation to corruption. And what about the international impact? Binance operates globally. This pardon doesn't just affect one man's record, it sends a signal across the entire global financial system. It tells every major exchange, every crypto company, every compliance officer, if you have enough money, if you have the right connections, you can buy your way out of anything. That's not the rule of law. That's the law of rule, whoever has the power, rules. Meanwhile, for ordinary Americans, for small business owners, for anyone who's ever faced legal trouble, there's no pardon coming. There's no personal phone call, no stroke of a pen, no presidential favor. You pay your fines. You serve your time. But if you're a billionaire who can move billions into the right family's accounts, suddenly mercy becomes a lot easier to find. And the irony here is almost poetic. Trump's supporters accused Biden of being mentally unfit because of an auto pen, a device literally designed for administrative efficiency. And now Trump's on camera saying he pardons people he's never heard of. That's not strength. That's recklessness. That's the definition of unfit. So the next time someone tells you that Trump is a man of the people, that he's fighting corruption, that he's standing up for fairness, remember this moment. Remember him saying, "I don't know who he is." Remember the $2 billion that flowed into his family's crypto venture. Remember the silence from his allies. Remember that when it comes to power, it's not about principles, it's about profit. And if you're a voter, if you're someone who still believes the office of the presidency should stand for something greater than personal enrichment, ask yourself this: how much more are we willing to excuse? How many more times do we have to watch the powerful bend justice to serve themselves before we finally say enough? This story isn't just about one pardon. It's about the normalization of corruption. It's about the slow erosion of accountability. It's about the fact that the people who once shouted the loudest about law and order have become silent in the face of open, televised corruption. So let me leave you with this thought: if they could justify this, pardoning someone tied to their own financial interests, admitting ignorance on live TV, what won't they justify next? Before you go, if you made it this far, and you believe independent voices need to keep shining a light on stories like this, stories the major networks won't stay on for long, please take 2 seconds to click like on this video. It actually helps more than you think. Hit subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Because this isn't the end of the story, it's just the beginning. In the weeks ahead, we'll be digging deeper into who pushed for this pardon inside the administration, how the $2 billion transaction was structured, and what it reveals about the growing overlap between cryptocurrency, politics, and presidential power. So, stay tuned, stay informed, and stay skeptical, because when those in power say, "I don't know who he is," it's up to the rest of us to make sure they don't get away with pretending they don't know what they are doing. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.